Good evening and good afternoon. Welcome to our 13th Torah Fund Stands with Israel event. I am Lori Snow, the International Torah Fund Chair. Torah Fund has been the designated philanthropy of Women's League for Conservative Judaism since 1942. We are especially appreciative to have everyone attending this afternoon, evening, depending where you are, in the spirit of Am Yisrael Chai, as Israel continues its war against Hamas and faces risks on various fronts, particularly since the horrifying events of October 7th, 2023. Now it is my honor to acknowledge Women's League for Conservative Judaism International President Julia Loeb, who would like to wave hello to everyone. Thank you, Julia. Before we begin our program, we want you to know we muted everyone so we will be able to hear our presenters without background noise. We plan to answer questions after the presentations. The general chat has been disabled. Please send your questions via chat to Ariana Burrows. You can also click on reactions and then click raise your hand. It's my honor now to mention the past international presidents of Women's League and past international Torah Fund chairs who are in attendance this evening. According to the list that I looked at a few hours ago, I'm welcoming Barbara Ezring and Debbie Kaynard-Goldich. I'm sorry if I missed anyone. Please wave hello, ladies. We're glad to have you. Torah Fund supports programs and scholarships for students at the 5 global conservative Masorti Institutes of Higher Learning, including the Jewish Theological Seminary in New York, JTS, the Ziegler School of Rabbinic Studies in Los Angeles, the Schechter Institutes of Jewish Studies in Jerusalem, Seminario Rabbinico Latino Americano in Buenos Aires, and the new Abraham J. Heschel Seminary in Potsdam, Germany. Thanks to the generosity of donors like you, in the past 8 decades, we have raised over $110 million. We're an unusual philanthropy, as our dedicated fundraisers are all volunteers from Women's League's affiliates and conservative synagogues throughout the United States and Canada. Funds raised support important educational initiatives and special educational projects for the training of our future rabbis, cantors, teachers, scholars, and Jewish community leaders. Our thousands of committed Torah Fund donors help strengthen and ensure the future of conservative Masorti Judaism worldwide. We invite you to donate to Torah Fund as well as the Creating New Spaces special project, which we plan to finish this June. The links posted from Karen allow you to donate to either campaign. Also this evening, in view of the ongoing situation, we ask you to consider donating to Israel via these charities. Karen will again post the links: the American Friends of Magen David Adom, Friends of the IDF, and United Hatzalah of Israel. Back to Torah Fund. The Torah Fund campaign of the Women's League for Conservative Judaism is administered by the Jewish Theological Seminary. Torah Fund staff members manage our philanthropy's outreach, engagement, promotion, donation, and data processing activities, and works in tandem with our wide network of Torah Fund volunteers. We are excited to present this series in support of Israel, especially now, and hope you will find it informative and educational. Now I welcome Marilyn Berkowitz, my wonderful Torah Fund Vice Chair of Finance, to introduce our guest rabbi, Rabbi Richard Commerce.
Thanks, Lori. For those of us involved with Torah Fund, you will often hear us say that the money we raise for Torah Fund helps train future rabbis, cantors, educators, and lay leaders. When you read Rabbi Richard Cameron's bio, you will learn that he has been doing exactly that. He has been a lecturer at the Ziegler School of Rabbinic Studies, so he's training future rabbis. He also serves on the Rabbinic Advisory Council of the Milton School, training educators and lay leaders. I first met Rabbi Cameras when he created a program to help educate those of us living in the West San Fernando Valley in Los Angeles, called a winter Kala. Again, he was educating lay leaders and the whole community. I was the liaison from my synagogue, Temple Aliyah, and Rabbi Cameras was the rabbi at the synagogue down the street. Shamrei Torah. Almost 2 years ago, we merged, and I'm very happy to say that I want to introduce my rabbi to give our Devar Torah tonight, someone who has been doing the work of Torah Fund for many years, Rabbi Cameras.
Marilyn, thank you so much for that warm welcome, and welcome to all of you. It's wonderful that I'm here. Thank you for inviting me and including me and giving me an opportunity to share a few words with you. I was saying just a few minutes before we got on the Zoom that I was in my car for 2.5 hours today, just now, driving back from Orange County, Los Angeles traffic. And it gave me an opportunity to listen to lots of podcasts. And the last one that I was listening to was Barry Weiss from the Free Press. And she was interviewing Douglas Murray, who is a regular writer for the Free Press. I don't know how many of you listen or watch or read the Free Press, but I would certainly encourage it. And Douglas Murray just came out with a book on democracy, and I forgot the exact name of it, but I think Democracy and Death Cults. And he spent a good deal of time in Israel after October 7th and since October 7th. And towards the end of the interview, he talks about the fact that, she asks a lot of questions about why the rise in anti-Semitism in America, why young people are so committed to the destruction of Israel and supporting Hamas. And he talks about the projection of these young Americans who have learned that America is so bad, and therefore they have to take the one Western liberal democracy in the world that they want to destroy, thinking that they can destroy that and therefore destroy Western liberal democracy. And at the very end of the interview, he says, but they picked the wrong people to fight with, because what he understands and what we all understand is what Golda Meir said. What's the secret weapon of the Israelis? Well, the secret weapon of the Israelis, when Golda Meir quoted, everybody thought she was talking about nuclear weapons. But what she really answered that question was it had nothing to do with nuclear weapons. It was, we have nowhere else to go. That is the power of Israel. We have nowhere else to go. This is our country, and we're going to defend it no matter what. So I highly recommend, none of this was part of my Devar Torah, but it's in my mind, and I thought it's worthwhile listening to Barry Weiss and the interview with Douglas Murray, because I think what he has to say is something that's incredibly true. And that brings me to the Devar Torah. What I want to do is share with you an individual who you probably are somewhat familiar with, perhaps by name, perhaps by image. And I want us to think about him as a way of reflecting back a week and a half ago on Yom Ha'atzmaut and Yom HaZikaron, both the saddest and most hopeful days in the secular high holidays of Israel, when Israel mourns the loss of those who willingly have given their life for the state of Israel and all Jews everywhere, and the celebration of the fact that the state of Israel exists for Israelis and for all Jews everywhere. And I want to share one name with you, or a couple names with you, but first, a gentleman by the name of Gadi Moises. How many of you are familiar with that name? Does it ring a bell at all? So there is an iconic image of Gadi Moises, and maybe you don't know him, but maybe you know the photo. And he's standing, white hair, almost bald, erect and proud, with a slight smile, a slight smirk on his face, while he is literally surrounded by hundreds and hundreds of masked Hamas death cult terrorists. It was an image seen by all of Israel and hopefully by many Jews and others around the world. And it was the smile that captured the power of that moment. After 482 days in captivity, brutal, horrific, tortuous days in dark, dank, and dangerous tunnels, Gadi Moses, 80 years old, stood tall and erect, pride and powerful, with strength and hope, with that slightly upturned smile. And to me, that captured the power of Israel and Israelis, a statement of absolute defiance and resilience in the face of unbelievable, horrific torture. It reminded me his stance of people like Mia Shem, who, if you remember, spent 50 days in Hamas captivity. And upon her release, she added a tattoo to her body, and she's been in the press recently as well for some very unfortunate issues. But she added a tattoo on her body that said, "We will dance again," accompanied by the date October 7th, 2023. There was an image also that came out in the Israel press, Emily Damari. You remember her. She was the one who held up her hand with her fingers blown off. And her image became the costume of choice for little girls last Purim. She was the superhero that girls chose to dress up as. Or I'm going to give you one more, Agam Berger. And Agam Berger, when she was released from captivity, she spawned countless gatherings worldwide of women who came together to braid challah before Shabbat and braid each other's hair in solidarity with the fact that she was the one who braided the hair with chesed and determination and such kindness of the other women who she was in captivity with. These people are the heroes of Israel. They are the ones who represent what we need to hold forth. Yeah, there's a lot of anti-Semitism out in the world, and there's a lot of hatred of Jews, but I think it is our job as individuals individuals living in America to be able to tell the story of Israel in a profound and positive way. And as I get ready to conclude my words, I want to just share with you the first words that Gadi Moses said when he was released from prison, from the hell of Gaza. He said, "I am excited to come back and rebuild Ner Oz." Ner Oz is the kibbutz on the border of Gaza that was one of the first that was attacked, that saw 1/4 of its 400 residents killed or kidnapped by Hamas. 25% of its population decimated, homes destroyed, fields burnt, survivors scattered, the kibbutz emptied. And the first thing that he says upon his release is, "I can't wait to return." Ani mitragesh was the Hebrew that he used, a building of excitement inside to come back home. And if there's anything that I want to leave you with, it's that sense of the power and of possibility and hope that Israel represents to all Jews everywhere. It's that power of possibility and hope that I hope that you will take into the work that you do on behalf of Torah Fund and Women's League, because the more students that you help to study and learn about the power of Israel and their connection to Israel, the better we will be as a Jewish people worldwide. So kol hakavod to all of you who are here, who are doing the important work that you're doing. Thank you for giving me the chance to share a few words with you about the resilience of Israel in honor of Yom HaZikaron and Yom HaAtzmaut. And I hope you have a great conversation with Ariella Rada as I turn it back over to the Women of Torah Fund. Thank you.
Rabbi, thank you for your inspiring and thoughtful words. We're very glad you could join us this evening. Now it is my pleasure to welcome Ariella Rada, our primary speaker. Ariella Rada is the spokesperson and counsel for media affairs at the Consulate General of Israel in New York. In this role, she oversees New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Ohio, and Delaware, managing Israel's relationship with the traditional media and social media. Having joined Israel's Ministry of Foreign Affairs in 2015. In 2016, Ariella was appointed Deputy Ambassador of Israel to Peru. She then served as Counsel for Academic and Community Affairs at the Consulate General of Israel in Chicago. Ariella grew up in Beersheba. In the IDF, she served as a company commander and trained new recruits. Ariella earned a BA in Government, Diplomacy, and Strategy from Reichman University in Herzliya, and she speaks English, Hebrew, Spanish, and Amharic. She loves traveling, singing, and reading great books. Ariella?
Thank you so much for the introduction, and thank you so much also for the invitation. It is such a pleasure to be here among friends and family. And thank you, Rabbi, for your beautiful Dvar Torah. It was very touching. And I remember all the stories that you mentioned. And as you said, we did celebrate Yom HaAtzmaut recently and mentioned, Yom HaZikaron. And one of the things that I said in Yom HaAtzmaut is that one of the things about Israel that I think everybody can see now, especially after October 7th, is the resilience of the Jewish people, is the hope that we have, and the fact that no matter what we've been through throughout history, all the persecutions and everything that, all the times that that people were trying to eliminate us, we're still hopeful, we're still building, we're still going forward. And so thank you for, that reminder. I am happy to start first. I'll start a little bit about myself and about my journey towards the position of spokesperson at the Israeli consulate here in New York, and then I'll say a few things about all the news of the day, situation, current events right now, as much as time will allow me. And all the challenges that Israel is facing. And of course, we'll leave time for Q&A because I do believe that most of the questions or the information that people want to hear lays in questions. So I was born in Ethiopia. And in the risk of exposing my age, I'm going to share that I did Aliyah from Ethiopia when I was 3 during the 80s, very close to Operation Moses. I grew up in Israel, in Beersheba. Growing up, I always heard about the challenges that my ancestors, my family experienced and the Jewish community in Ethiopia experienced, the fact that they were persecuted, that they had the nickname of Falasha, which a lot of people are still using that nickname without knowing that it was a bad nickname, saying that we're intruders. It's the same, it's very similar to the word in Hebrew, which is polshim. Polshim is intruders, people that came and do not belong to that place, asking us, just to leave. All the blood labels, or all the accusations of Jews drinking blood, and everything that every Jew knows, all those stories that we've heard. And I remember that also my mom growing up told me a lot about how they always dreamed about Jerusalem, about coming to Israel, how much they love Jerusalem, and how much they believe that this is the land of the Jews and that one day they will arrive. So growing up in that environment, such a Zionist environment that taught us to believe and to understand that the state of Israel is our home. There is no other home for us as Jews. And it doesn't matter how long we've been out in the diaspora. At the end, we have only one state, one land, and we have to do everything in our power to make sure that that land is safe and exists for the sake of all Jews that were persecuted in Europe and all over the world. So growing up, I knew that I want to do something that will help me. I didn't quite understand what does it mean to represent Israel, but definitely to show those things about Israel that I know from growing up there, from hearing or from experiencing Israel. And I got exposed to diplomacy. I went to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I saw what they're doing, and that minute I said, okay, this is what I want to do. I want to represent not only the state of Israel. For me, this is representing the Jewish people around the world, because at the end, I think that October 7th and the history itself, but especially after October 7th, it's the most recent events. I think that we got a reminder that it doesn't matter if you are Israeli or not. The fact that you're Jewish, you're a target. The fact that you're Jewish, you will be blamed for everything. The fact that there is so many people that are saying, no, I don't have a problem with Jews, but I do have a problem with the policy in Israel, with the government in Israel. And my question will always be, if you have a problem with the policy or the government of Israel, what does it have to do with attacking Jews all over the world? Does it have to do with people that are wearing their kippah and are being attacked only because they have this symbol of being a Jew? If it was about policies, there are so many Jews that are not affiliated with Israel. Some of them had never visited Israel, and still they are being attacked because they're Jews. So I think that October 7th kind of like taught us that Jews are Jews, and they don't care if it's Israelis or you're just an American Jew. And it brought a lot of people together, and it made people understand that at the end, it's not, there is no difference. And so I started my work at the MFA at 2015. As mentioned, I was in Peru and then Chicago. And then I returned in 2021 to Israel. After my return to Israel, I worked at the Palestinian department at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in the Middle East division. And I remember, working there, receiving a lot of, comments or a lot of questions and asks about what happened here, what happened in East Jerusalem, why this place was destroyed, why this school was closed. A lot of reports that I had to read and, of course, comment about them, writing letters. And then October 7th happened. And when October 7th happened, I was in Beersheba, and we knew immediately that something was wrong, because it wasn't the regular sirens that we've heard. Unfortunately, we're used to those sirens since 2007, and but it wasn't the same sirens that we were used to. We had sirens every minute, every few seconds. So realizing that it's something very different, we opened the TV and we saw all the horrific things and all the atrocities that happened on that day. And as Ariella that usually goes abroad and represent Israel and has the ability to do a lot of things in the field when I am there in Chicago or in Peru or some other place, I felt very hopeless, helpless. I felt that I don't have anything I can do to help because I was there in Beersheba. We were all, in our homes. We nobody left the house. It was a chaos in the beginning. Nobody really understood what is happening. It was shocking to us, and of course, it took us like a few days to kind of like even understand what is happening. But I felt that like something that I have to do something after October 7th. And so I went online and I started sharing all the things that are happening. I started sharing the names, the atrocities, the cases of rape that happened, all the evidence, all the the footages that showed how Hamas terrorists themselves like photographed and did live and videos of those that they murdered and those that they kidnapped. And I started sharing the horrific stories of the females that were the female that were raped in the Nova festival. And I did it on my personal account. And the amount of hate that I experienced were overwhelming to me. I've never thought that I'll hear such mean comments from female. So I had comments from different females that wrote to me that we deserve it. Israeli women deserve everything that they got. I had female that wrote to me, congratulations for the hostages, females that will come back pregnant, and laughing about it when their profiles saying that they're mothers and educators. I had comments about, how we're occupying the land and we deserve everything. I had the most horrific comments, and that made me understand that something needs to be done. And I knew that I have to do something that includes a way to kind of like try to make a difference. And so I chose this position as spokesperson that deals with media and social media. So I'm handling both of them, understanding that this is where all the misinformation is being spread. This is the most powerful tool that we have. Unfortunately, it's been used against us over and over again during this war, with cases like the hospital, the Al-Mahali hospital, that was actually hit by a rocket of Hamas, and all newspaper started, shouting that it was Israel attacking that hospital. But by the time that we investigated and found out that it was actually a rocket of Hamas, it was already too late, and it was already all over the place saying that Israel was to blame. So that's how I came to this position. And for me, the representing Israel and the Jewish people is one of the most important tasks that I had in my life. As somebody that my grandfather and my ancestors did not had the chance, and other family member did not had the chance to come to Israel. And unfortunately, I've heard so many stories about them yearning and waiting to be part of this miracle that called Jerusalem. This is how they called it, Jerusalem. They didn't call it the state of Israel. And so for me, it's not only fulfilling my dream, but also the dream of my ancestors. I know how my grandfather loved Israel and how much he prayed for us to be here. So I feel that it's the mission of my life, especially when I'm being exposed to more and more anti-Semitism and lack of knowledge and misinformation. This is definitely something that makes me proud. And it's not the most easy task to do, especially during times like that, where we're facing almost 2 years of war. But I couldn't be more proud than representing Israel and the Jewish state. That's a little bit about me and how I came to this position, what made me choose diplomacy. And I want to talk a little bit about the current situation. Unfortunately, we have a lot of fronts and a lot of events that are happening. I'll just try to mention a few of them. So we have the front in Gaza, which is of course the main thing. Hamas had repeatedly refused every deal that were offered by Egypt, by the Americans, by Israel. The latest one was in April 15th, where they refused also that offer. And as you probably, most of you know, the Israeli cabinet have accepted a decision to recruit more reserve and to operate in a wider way in Gaza. A lot of times when I'm meeting journalists, they're asking about all the challenges that we're experiencing in Gaza, but like the main question is, why are we not ending this war? And I always answer, nobody likes war. Nobody wants to be at war. With all the respect, like people in Israel, our soldiers they are our families. They're our children, our husbands and wives, and it's a family there. Like nobody wants to fight, but we don't have a choice, because at the end, not only October 7th to mark, the threats that we're facing from the Gaza Strip and from Hamas, but also recently, a few months ago, there was a lot of intel about the fact that Hamas was planning to do another October 7th. When after we had the deal and when things were calmer, they were planning to repeat October 7th while we're still engaged in fighting over the first October 7th that they made. So one of the most important thing for me to express also to journalists and to other people is that when this war has started, we said that Israel has two goals. And the two goals is, one, to make sure that Hamas is dismantled and is no longer in power, especially because of their charter is saying that their main goal is the destruction of the state of Israel. You can't really live in a border with somebody that publicly say that their main goal is the destruction of the state of Israel. And the fact that they teach their children to hate Israel, to hate Jews, to believe that everything that we want is to kill them. So it's dismantling Hamas, making sure that they're not in power, that they are not controlling Gaza. And the second thing, and it's actually the first thing, is bringing all our hostages back home. And until those goals are not reached, until we don't accomplish them, it's very difficult to finish this war, because it's just a matter of time of expecting that something like October 7 will repeat, and this is not something that Israel is willing to take in consideration. And unfortunately, Hamas is refusing to every offer, every suggestion, every deal that was offered to them, and those are the main things that we are trying to achieve. And if it means that we need to wide the war to put more pressure on Hamas, then this is what we'll do, because at the end, this is the first thing that is important to us. It's the safety of the people of Israel. A lot of people kind of like forgot the front that we're facing in the north. So we have Hezbollah, which since October 8th was very involved in the war. And now that we did have reached agreement with Lebanon and and we have a ceasefire there, but we still have incidents there. We still have, they're shooting from there still, and the IDF still need to go and make sure that that they are eliminating targets that are trying to get closer to the border. This is a front that we're constantly are worried about and are involved in talking. There's a lot of conversation with the government in Lebanon in order to make sure that Hezbollah is no longer controlling Lebanon, and that the agreements that we reached are being kept as written, as agreed. One of the most, it's not one, it's the most important front that we have is, of course, Iran. At the end, Iran is the head of the snake. Iran is the one that is operating the Houthi in Yemen, that we're experiencing a lot of attacks from them. Of course, Hezbollah in Lebanon, Hamas in Gaza, and a lot of others around the world. So Iran is the one that is founding them. Iran is the one that is guiding them to do all those attacks against Israel, but also against Jews. And right now we are in a situation where we're waiting to see where the conversations and the talks with the United States will lead us to. We said before that we won't allow Iran to have a nuclear weapon. Iran is calling Israel the small devil and America the big devil. They are not afraid to say that they want the destruction of America and Israel. And when somebody is saying that his main goal is your destruction, you better believe him. And so I think we all agreed, also, the American administration and us, we all agreed that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. What are we going to do in order to make sure that that is not going to happen? That is yet to be cleared. Of course, we're in favor of every way that we can actually prevent from Iran having a nuclear weapon, something that they actually advanced very much, especially in the last year. And everything that will help stop them is, of course, something that we support. And so we're waiting to see where this direct talks will lead us to. Another front that we're actually are facing is Syria. Syria is something that we're very worried about it. I don't know if you saw, but today they covered the visit of the new president, the new president of Syria, El Julani in France. I just want to mention and to remind that El Julani is actually an ISIS affiliated person. And we all know that the group that control right now in Syria is a group of rebels that are part of ISIS. But since they occupied Syria, El Julani is making a lot of, he put his suit and he's making a lot of conversations. He's traveling the world, saying that he is a diplomat and he wants to reach an agreement. We saw very disturbing images from Syria. Massacre that was held by his people. They butchered the Alawis and then the Druze. hundreds of them, hundreds and even thousands of them. There were footages that were released, all over the world about everything that is happening there. We've heard a lot of chants that are saying that their next step will be arriving to Jerusalem, that they will conquer Jerusalem. It's something to be worried about and to take into consideration. And this is also something where a lot of time the IDF also needs to operate in the border to make sure that again that it's safe. But it's another challenge and another front that we are watching and monitoring. And of course, again, as I said, the same applies there. Israel will do everything to protect our borders and to protect our people. Those are the main challenges. But I also want to mention one challenge that is not necessarily just about Israel, and it's the rising in anti-Semitism. When I talk with people from the Jewish community here in the US, they're telling me how on October 8th, there were already people demonstrating and protesting in front of the consulate, in the streets of New York, in the streets of London and Paris and all over. And it was literally a day after the worst massacre of Jews after the Holocaust. And it was long before we operated it. We were not even like thinking about, going to Gaza or initiating or fighting back. It was literally a day after when we were still crying and mourning and counting our debts. And yet people felt the urge to go on the street and demonstrate and protest against Israel in one of the worst days that we experienced. And this rise of anti-Semitism is very worrying. The numbers and the fact that Jews are not protected and don't feel safe to walk with their kippah or to go to walk with their Star of David or anything that will affiliate them or discover the fact that they are Jews. This is an unmanageable situation that, to be honest, I didn't think that this is something that we'll see in 2025 or 2024. This is something that we've heard about the Holocaust and the persecutions that Jews experience and like the darkest history. And today we see how Jewish people are being attacked on the subway, on the street, how their restaurants are being burned and damaged. And this is, I think, one of the most important fronts that we have to fight, all of us together. Because at the end, what the fight that we're making today that will determine how our children future looks like. And the fact that nowadays anti-Semitism is something that is acceptable. People can comment and say whatever they want, and then they can try to cover it by saying, no, we're not anti-Semitic. We just don't agree with Israel. When everybody nowadays know that this is not the case. And the rise in anti-Semitism is something that we should all act against. And one of the risks, and of course, this is something that is very, this is like where the importance of the American Jews is very crucial. It's operating and being vocal and talking about it in social media and in the media and basically everywhere, because the trend right now in social media and in the media, and I see it every day, is to demonize Israel, to show Israel as a colonizer, as a white colonialist that is trying to take somebody else's land, that we're trying to kill all Palestinians, and this trend is leading us to at first the rise in anti-Semitism, but also a lot of actions against Israel in the UN, which I don't even want to start about talking about how biased this organization is. But all of those things are leading Israel to be like more or people to call for the isolation of Israel. And it's so crucial that voices like you, that is part of us, but you are in a power, you have influence, and you know a lot of people. This is how crucial it is now for everybody to raise their voice and to talk about, you know, the truth about Israel. So I'm going to stop here because I do want to have questions in maybe even topics that I haven't touched. So I'll stop here.
Thank you, Ariella. That was so fascinating. And I'm sure we're going to have some questions. Ariana Burrows is monitoring the chat for us.
There is a question wondering what is the level of cooperation with our U.S. government, for example, with our Secretary of State or others in our current administration?
So the coordination is very, very good. It's not a secret that you know, Trump administration in its previous term did amazing things for the state of Israel, recognizing the Golan Heights, moving the embassy to Jerusalem, the support of the state of Israel, and so many other things. And I mean, it's since the entrance of the new administration, we saw that we had, you know, more like we had the hostages deal that was signed. The level of coordinations are very, very good. And we're very thankful to, you know, the new administration and the support that we're receiving and their efforts to help with not only with, you know, the reaching to a hostages deal, but also the trying to resolve, you know, or make sure that Iran is not going to have a nuclear weapon. And we really do appreciate it. And also, I mean, we saw, you know, Netanyahu came for a visit twice in the last few months. That's to show how, you know, how good is the relationship and coordination.
Do you have any other questions, or should we open it up to hand raising?
Open it up.
Okay. You can raise your hands, use the yellow hand. We can page through and find you. I'd like to ask while we're
Jerry
people-
Lynn Payne.
let's see. Go ahead.
Jerry Lynn Payne has her hand raised.
Okay. Can we unmute Geraldine to ask her question?
Well, Lori, I was going to yield to you, but
Go ahead.
you provided a lot of information and food for thought, and to hear, even though we've heard a lot of these stories, but to hear, it's just so fresh. It's still raw in terms of what's going on in Israel. I communicated with someone over there today because of what happened at the airport, and just doing a prayer of protection and things of that nature. So thank you for what you're doing. You've charged us with the responsibility of advocating and opening our mouths and not being quiet, and letting the truth be known as opposed to all this mis and disinformation out there. On a lighter kind of note, I do want to ask you, and please forgive me, Women's League, but I have to ask her this. What songs do you sing?
Songs?
A singer, right?
Do you want the truth, or should I? Because everybody is very surprised when I say what I actually like. So it's it ranges from everything from R&B and pop. But my favorite one is hold your chair. Country music.
Oh, yeah, I had to hold the chair. Thank you very much.
I know, I know. But
Marilyn,
I mean, if I can comment about that. So, I mean, one of what you said about the disinformation, this is again what also led me to as I mentioned, I was before I was in Chicago, and in Chicago I was the responsible for the academic actually. So I went to speak with students in campuses. And one time I went to, and it's only one story among so many, but one time I went to a university, and I was standing there waiting for them to introduce me. And the students thought that I am one of the students. And one student came to me and he whispered in my ear, and he says, "Excuse me, do you know when the Israeli colonialist is coming to speak? Because we've heard that there is an Israeli diplomat that is coming to speak. And do you know when he's coming?" And I said, "No, I don't. I have no idea." And he said, "Well, I'll be waiting for him." And I said, "I will be waiting for him as well." And he talked as if it's, first of all, it's a man, and second, it's not going to be you. And so when they called my name, I looked for him in the crowd, and I saw his jaw was like wide opened, and he was shocked. And then I thought to myself, what am I going to do? And you know what I did? I shamed him, but without mentioning his name. I said, "You know, somebody has whispered to me, na 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 na." And then I told the story, and I said, "Look, so much misinformation, things that you think that you know, but you don't. Like, nobody really expect me to enter to a place and say that I am the Israeli representative, because you kind of like picture yourself something that you heard, or somebody told you that, you know, all the people that live in Israel are white with like blue eyes or whatever." And if that's not the truth, and I'm a living proof for that, even though others are trying to portray it differently, then think about like how many things maybe you're being fed, or you know, are being told and are not the truth. And this is our fight. Our fight is to kind of like disprove those misinformation, and discover, you know, the truth with, like, and share them with people that really, like, they really don't know.
So, Ariella, I have a question for you. Hey, you know, you talked about all the media access and people knowing the truth and how important it is, and I know everybody on this call agrees with you. So, can you explain a little bit about, you know, how do people get media access to Gaza through Israel? What is the process, and you know, how is it? Who determines that? Can you share a little bit about that?
You mean, how do, like, for example, like, media outlets decide what they're covering?
Right, like, is, you know, how does CNN, AP, or any, you know, different, you know, organizations or newspapers, how did they manage to get access to what's going on in Gaza right now through Israel?
So they have different ways. So some of them have sources in, for example, Gaza, not knowing that sometimes those sources are not really a reliable source. The same thing that we saw after October 7th, we saw journalists, and I'll say journalists, walking, you know, with Hamas terrorists to the kibbutzim in Israel, and actually filming everything. We saw people that were affiliated with Hamas, that were, they call themselves journalists, and sent materials to different media outlets. And the biggest one, I'm talking, you know, like the biggest, you know, media, which I'm not, it's not the smaller one. So they have their sources, and they have most of them, the especially the, you know, the main ones, they have representative or reporter in Israel that is reporting from there. And so they're basically relying on conversation that they're having, on testimonies, on as I said, those resources and what they're sending them, and what they're saying. But there are so many problems with that. Sometimes you can take a video and cut it, or not even cut it, but like show only one part of it. If you're, for example, if you were to be somebody that is throwing rocks and threatening someone and assaulting someone, and that led to the fact that they came to you and they asked you to stop and you didn't, and then they arrested you or stopped you, and then you just show the part where you were being arrested or being or being detained, then that's a problem, because what led to it is the important thing. And so it's all about context. There is a context, and it's very important. So that's how they get their information. And one of the things in the consulate that we're really like putting a lot of efforts, we read every day all the news, and we make sure that there is nothing that is, I'm not talking about like criticism. It's okay, like you can criticize Israel, it's fine, we are a democracy, and we, it's of course it's something that you should do. But when we have things that we see that are really wrong, for example, one one time, New York Times have wrote that Nir Oz, the kibbutz that were attacked, is actually part of the occupied territories.
Mm.
And that's just misinformation. And that's something that you cannot do when you are a distinguished newspaper that so millions of people are reading. And this is something that we really put emphasize. We're trying to correct them. We're in constant relationship with them, because we say, if you have something that you want to publish, ask us for a comment. Like, at least, this is the basic that you're supposed to do. You don't have to take our word, you don't have to take, our side, but you have to mention the Israeli consulate or the Israeli officials are saying, and then at least the reader have other perspective than your source that might have his agenda.
Thank you. Ariella, do you have time for another question? I see that we have another hand up. Are you okay with that?
Sure.
Okay, Shelley, could Karen, could you unmute Shelley? There she is. Thank, she just
Okay,
needs.
I'm
muted.
unmuted. So I can agree with almost everything you say. But my problem is, and I will defend I'm not shy about defending Jews, but to someone who's saying something anti-Semitic. I'm not quiet, I speak out. But my problem is that I'm not, let's say, New York Times I get, but I'm reading Haaretz and I'm reading Israeli newspapers that are saying that the reservists do not want to get caught. They're avoiding being called up. They don't want to fight this escalating war in Gaza. And they feel that it will end up causing the hostages to be killed, that it would make it impossible to save them. And so that when I'm talking to somebody here in the United States and we're talking about this war, I have to say that I don't approve of Netanyahu, let's say. I have to say that, but I also say, and I don't know if I assume I'm right, that the majority of Israelis feel as I do, that they're not conflicted. They know that they want those hostages out. They know that they want an end to terrorism, but the two seem to be interfering with each other. And it's difficult. I'm not discussing this with people who are anti-Semitic. I'm discussing it with other Jews in this country, because it's extremely difficult to put our positions forth, even amongst ourselves, about what's to do when it doesn't seem like it seems like Israel is struggling.
Kelly, let's let Ariella respond.
So, look, we are a democracy, and at the end, people have different opinions. And it's not a secret that there are different opinions in Israel. There are those that want the war to be stopped, and it doesn't matter what's the cost. And by the way, the vast majority of Israelis, that's what they want. But having said, that, like, we are allowed to have different opinions, but we did set in the beginning of this war these two goals that I've mentioned, which is dismantling Hamas and bringing the hostages back. We have to remember that we brought almost, most of them back at the end, and we still have 59 that are being held. And yes, there is arguments, and it's complicated, and there are arguments about, like, should we really go to Gaza? Should we back off? Should we just get to this agreement with, like, and surrender to Hamas and say, you know what, just like we'll do everything? But then it means that you are surrendering to a terrorist organization that is, by the way, they're still saying that, okay, let's have a ceasefire for a certain amount of time until they can rebuild themselves, basically what they're doing right now. And then they're planning to do another October 7th. So is the Israeli society divided? Most definitely. Are we struggling around this war that has been going on for almost 2 years, something that we've never experienced? Definitely. Is it a complicated situation? No doubt. Do people want to go and serve, like, in the army over and over and fight? Of course not. And this is something that I've started with. Like, nobody really wants to engage war. Nobody wants to fight. Nobody wants to lose friends and family. But the problem is that one of the things, and one of the lessons that we've learned on October 7th is that Hamas cannot stay in power, and we cannot surrender to their demands, because at the end they will do it over and over again. So, and it's devastating, and all of us want all the hostages back. And to be honest, we're debating, like, there is a big debate also in Israel about what should we do, and do we agree with the government going to Gaza? Do the people don't agree? There is a whole discussion about it. And it's okay, by the way, to say it, and you don't need to approve the government. You don't need to agree with everything that the government is doing. It's okay. We're a democracy. We're allowed to have different opinions. But the bottom line is that in your conversations, you have to remember that everything that happened from October 7th was imposed on us. We did not choose this war. We did not start this war. We don't even want this war, but we're just forced to do it. And when you're talking with people, it's the same thing. I believe that Americans don't, like, not everybody is, necessarily supporting Trump, or the other way around. Not necessarily all the people, supported Biden. And it's okay to not, to agree on who is, leading the government. But you do have to fight for the right of Israel to exist, and for the fact that, like, and to fight against those that saying it in a different way, that Israel can be attacked over and over again, and we're not allowed to protect ourselves. And this is what we're doing. We're trying to protect ourselves. But having said all of that, believe me, there is nobody that wants our hostages back more than Israelis and all the Jewish the Jewish community. I just really believe that no matter what, again, don't agree with the government, yes or no, but you have to make sure that you fight for the existence of the state of Israel, because it's the only safe haven for Jews. It's the only place. And unfortunately, the Holocaust taught us that we cannot rely on anybody else but ourselves, even if we don't agree with each other.
I think that's a wonderful note to end our question and answer part of our evening. Ariella, thank you again for your excellent, informative presentation and answers to our questions. I'd like to mention
Thank
that
you.
another way to help Israel is to buy Kahol V'Lavan, blue and white. The link that Karen's putting up for us now is provided by the Israeli Export and International Cooperation Institute. There's information about consumer direct and business-to-business companies in Israel that we're happy to share with you. I'd like to thank everyone who worked behind the scenes to bring this program to fruition. Lisa Paul, our Torah Fund Director, Marilyn Berkowitz, our Torah Fund Vice Chair of Finance, Rabbi Ellen Volans Fields, Women's League Executive Director, Karen Bellina, Women's League Member Relations Manager. A special thank you to Karen for your tech support, and also to Ariana Burrows, Mid-Atlantic Region Torah Fund Vice President, for helping with questions and answers. We thank all of you for your support of Israel and your dedication to Torah Fund. Thank you for joining us, and good night.